So I'll start with Mike here about Chris Bryant. So he loses the grievance against the Cubs, a little bit of bad blood, whatever. Okay, fine. Bottom line is this. There's a lot of circumstance or perhaps conversation about whether or not they should trade Chris Bryant. And he's gone from, Mike, in my view, a guy who felt like can't miss, cornerstone player, MVP, World Series champion, to now a guy, some durability concerns, defensive concerns, and offensively inconsistent. Where are you right now on whether or not the Cubs should trade Chris Bryant?
Well, it depends on how I value him versus the about 3-4 other guys that are going to hit free agency at the same time as Chris Bryant. Because when I look at Baez, Rizzo, Schwarber, and including Bryant, those 4 guys are basically within a year of each other, all going to hit the open market.
Right.
So I think you got to kind of pick and choose. I think the grievance, play and the fact that the Cubs tried to extend Bryant earlier in his career and, being denied, that might sour a little bit in the Cubs organization. A little bit like Mookie Betts,
yes.
where we kind of gave you our chance. As an offensive player, I don't give up on this guy because, and you'll see, some of the analytics or OPS numbers are like, oh, he's gone down. I think he spoiled us in his second full season winning the MVP. Because as I look here, last year on a supposed down year, it's a 900 OPS and a 131 OPS plus. This guy's still an elite player. So we're not going to just give up on him. But whether we sign him long term, because he's looking at the dollars as well. Is he in the $300 million range? Puts together 2 more Chris Bryant type seasons, and you have to say yes. So there are a lot of, facets to this, to the approach the Cubs are taking. I don't think, the grievance and turning down contract actually helps a relationship ever. So we'll kind of see how that plays out.
I do have to say, though, for Chris Bryant, it was an important grievance for the players and Major League Baseball Players Association to go through that and just kind of air that dirty laundry out a little bit, because it might be something the Players Association tries to fight, the 171 days that he had instead of the 172, of course, which would give him a full year and 1 year closer to free agency. That being said, a lot of these kind of relationships can be healed. What do I think of Chris Bryant as a player? It's an outstanding player. Like you said, Rookie of the Year, MVP, World Series champion. I think injuries have slowed him down the last couple of seasons. Remember his first year on the Rookie of the Year, his versatility played, and then they've kind of cemented him at third base. But I think injuries have slowed him down. And like Mike said, I think he's a big year away from everyone feeling exactly the way they felt about him 3 years ago.
102 games in 2018 because of the injury, left shoulder injury a year ago. And, D.A., here's a surprising number. Mike mentioned the OPS plus. That was his lowest in a full season, but 131 is still a good number. Defensively, though, he's minus 13 defensive runs saved at third base for the last 3 seasons. That was surprising to me.
I would agree, but I would say that in terms of OPS plus and looking at the best guys in the league, this is a guy that among third basemen over the last 4 seasons ranks only behind Bregman and Josh Donaldson. Wow. He gets it done. It took him 108 years to win a World Series. Don't break it up yet, okay? Yeah. I know this is the greatest dynasty never to be. We thought after 2016 this was going to be a lot of runs of World Series appearances. But to me, you're the Cubs with a nucleus, a core of guys that has done it before. Instead of already starting to disassemble it, see if you can keep it together to do it again. Because, look, if you're a Cubs fan, it took you a century to get there, okay? So let's not make it another century. You know these guys, they're in their prime. They might hit all free agency at the same time, but to me, I wouldn't disassemble it yet. I would keep Chris Bryant.
Is there another guy that you'd at least entertain? To Mike's point, if they're all going to hit the market, I can't pay them all. I feel like Rizzo you got to keep, Baez you got to keep, Bryant you're saying stay. So maybe Schwarber you look to flip?
I would much prefer trading Schwarber than Bryant. I mean, Chris Bryant in his past has an MVP under his belt. Right. That to me is significant enough to say if we can heal the wounds that came with this grievance, I've got a player that has that type of potential.
Where did you have him ranked in your top 10, by the way?
I have Bryant without giving it away. I think
give us the number range.
Lower third.
Lower third, okay.
But some people don't even have him on the list. But to DA's point, being ranked that high amongst third basemen, when you see the top 10s all position, third base is absolutely stacked. It's never been more loaded than it's been at this time in the big league. So that production at that position is elite. And then there's also the dollars. To extend Bryant is a whole different, ballpark than extending Schwarber. So that's where the Cubs got to make their decision where they are. Luxury tax. We hear all the big market teams now talking about luxury tax. If we threw out the luxury tax, You know, and it was just like you could have a $300 million payroll. I think teams would.
And I know chemistry is a totally inappropriate thing to use on the show, so I'm certainly going to say it. Remember that.
Well, he said downward dog on the show, so we're good.
I'm opening up the vault now.
So think about it this way: when he had some of his best years, his teammate is going to be his manager now. So maybe that relationship might help.
That's a great
him.
Right. Yeah. Rather than, let's take a DH, but rather than disassembling the parts of it, listen, you remove the manager. Maybe that will work things out.
I like it. I like their core of really strong players. I would let them play out for a year.
All right, see what happens. Bottom line, 2019, a 3.6 WAR. So listen, you're going to throw it. Chemistry will get WAR. Now we balanced out the show.